Hey, Slider Crusaders, we talk a lot on my radio show about something called restorative justice. This is a progressive disciplining philosophy that in public schools that says suspension rates are too high and minority kids are disciplined disproportionately from white kids. So instead of disciplining kids, it's game on. And instead of suspending kids, we're just gonna let them do whatever they want. If you're a teacher, please share your story in the comments about your experience with restorative justice and how it has made your job miserable. We had one teacher call in on my radio show, and she said she has such trouble with one kid around elementary school age that the principal told her if that kid acts up, or when he acts up, she has to remove all the other kids from the classroom. I read an article recently about some teachers from St. Paul. One of the teachers says that we have a segment of kids who consider themselves untouchable. Another teacher said students who are tired of their lectures just simply stand up and leave. They can just bust into rooms where they don't belong, just picking fights, not even in the hallways, in other classrooms. Teachers have to lock the doors to keep other kids out. There's a fourth grade teacher who says, I've been punched, kicked, and spit on and called every cuss word you could possibly think of. Fourth grade. One teacher said, many of us go home in tears and said, please stop with the staff development on racism conferences or whatever, or how to de-escalate a student altercation. She says, we teachers, we feel like we're drowning. So the idea is if we keep disciplining kids and they get on the wrong track, then they go to prison, and we have the school to prison pipeline. So if we just don't discipline them at all, then they won't go to prison. Teacher says, this is backwards. She says, by not disciplining, we're telling these kids you don't have to be on time for anything. We're just going to talk to you about what you've done. You can literally assault somebody, an adult, and we're going to let you come back to the classroom. That type of behavior, if you allow that, it's just going to spiral. It's going to get worse and worse, and they're going to go to prison. The Fresno School District, there's 85 teachers at one high school. 70 of them signed a petition asking for, basically just to get rid of this restorative justice. The petition says something like students are returned, I'll put it in the comments here, but students are returned to class after assaulting teachers, physically assaulting teachers are just returned back to the classroom. And this petition's calling for this to stop because it's destroying the school. One teacher of 11 years says a student can say F you, and they're told that it's just the kid's personality. And they do it over and over and over again. And the administration now just shrugs it off because it's the new progressive philosophy, restorative justice. Now, what does this have to do with the school shooting in Florida? I've got a quote here from the executive director of the Student Support Initiatives for Broward County Public Schools. This is August 2017. This person said, we're not compromising school safety. We're really saving the lives of kids. She's referring to what was called the Broward County Solution. It's restorative justice. Broward County used to lead the state of Florida in sending kids to juvenile detention. So the progressive solution, the restorative justice solution, was to lower the arrests by not making arrests. So they took 12 different misdemeanor offenses and instead treated them as school issues, not criminal ones. So in 2011, there were over 1,000 arrests, which is insane. 4 years later, there were less than 400. Now, this doesn't mean that the criminal behavior stopped or dropped. It just means that fewer kids were getting arrested for the bad behavior. There very well, and probably was, more bad behavior, just no one was getting in trouble for it. So this school shooter was one of these kids who was always in trouble, but nothing was done to stop him. Not only that, but in 2012, Barack Obama administration sent a memo to public schools all across the country telling them to avoid discipline methods. This is a quote that result in disparate use of disciplinary tools. Disparate use means more minority kids are getting disciplined than white kids. So stop disciplining minority kids. Nikolas de Jesus Cruz is a statistical Hispanic. When the effort from the school is to lower the suspension rates for minorities and to get them more in line with white and Asian students, then the school has every reason to not report Nikolas Cruz's criminal behavior. Miami Herald wrote a great article about his behavioral problems. and said the Parkland shooter was always in trouble, never expelled. Could the school system have done more? That was the headline. The answer is yes. The opening paragraph talks about how Cruz was a school administrator's nightmare, kicking doors, cursing at teachers, fighting with classmates. He brought a backpack with bullets to school. One teacher says he wasn't even allowed in the school with a backpack because they're afraid of what might be in it. And everyone knew this. This was not a mystery. There was one story where students were waiting in the hallway for their 8th grade science teacher to let them in the classroom. And Cruz would bang on the door, try to kick the door down, yell profanities at the teacher, telling her to open the blanking door. This teacher had to call security to let Cruz into the classroom and keep an eye on him during class. A security guard. And Cruz was in what's called the exceptional student program at Broward schools. Now don't go thinking that exceptional means exceptionally good. Again, in progressive world, everything's backwards. It's the opposite. If you're in the exceptional program, it means you're exceptionally bad and misbehaving. So there's one administrator who was with the exceptional student program for 42 years. She says that the document about Cruz's behavior said she's never seen more obvious signs that a student would become violent in her 42 years. The school knew this would happen. Why didn't they do anything? Restorative justice. Now, just to be clear, I don't expect schools to do all the disciplining. Kids used to be disciplined at home, and then the school was a supplement to that, and it would be worse when you get back home. But when the disciplining stopped at the home, the school was left to fend for themselves. And after all these decades of trying to do it only by themselves, they finally decided to just give up. But the problem is they give up in the name of helping kids. So now we live in this world where kids don't get disciplined for anything. It's just game on. They run the show. They're in control of the parents at home, if there are any parents, and they think they can be in charge of the teachers too. And the progressives are now, the progressive mentality is to institutionalize this, right? And we tell these trouble kids, yeah, you are in charge. This philosophy is not going to help kids on the fringes. It's just going to allow them to spiral more out of control and into deeper isolation. And the kids who just want to learn while in school, they're victimized even more. This restorative justice has to stop. Make sure your kid's school doesn't follow this philosophy.